Imagine you're walking down a street. It's on a pretty steep downward incline. The road rolls out ahead of you, leading down through a quaint, hallmark-worthy town. You can see near the bottom the hill flattens out. It's punctuated by train tracks, and beyond that a stretch of bluffs, and further still the gray curve of the Missouri River. It's picturesque in an unassuming way. Quiet. You start walking. You notice homes that have been turned into bed and breakfasts, wineries, antique shops. The town itself feels a bit like an antique, the architecture harkening back to the town's founding in the 1800s. It's easy to imagine things as they were. So easy, in fact, that when you look down a passing street, you can almost see a horse-drawn wagon rattling your way, driven by a man who doesn't seem to notice you. Continuing on, the first place you choose to stop at is a red brick building nestled into the corner. The St. George reads the sign, proudly emblazoned in white capitals just above the front door. It's a hotel, an old one, built in 1845. You look up, eyes skimming over the black slatted roof dotted by jutting windows, and pause as your attention catches on a misty figure lingering behind the glass. A woman, perhaps? By the time you ask yourself the question, she's gone. You've heard stories about this place, particularly about room 302, where guests have reported chairs being moved to their bedsides while they sleep, as if someone watched them in the night. People have talked about the spirit of a mischievous little boy who roams the halls, hiding belongings from hotel guests. Some have even been paid a visit by a ghostly woman and her cat. Was that who you saw in the window just now? Turning around, you spot a little general store across the street. Signs offering ice cream and fudge beckon you closer, and you cross to take a look around. You've heard about this place too. The Main Street Galleria and upstairs tea room is described as noisy by its workers. Its owner, Verna Cowarts, literally wrote the book on Weston's hauntings. She says her shop is a portal, bringing in spirits from all over. Some are friendly, others less than kind. The upstairs tea room has several residents, a Civil War captain who remains tied to his desk, a woman with a penchant for pushing. You wonder if it's true, if there really is a portal in the shop. As you climb the narrow stairs up into the tea room, you can't help but feel like there are eyes following. The back of your neck prickles. You're glad when you reach the top undisturbed. Returning to your walk, you're reminded of a story you overheard earlier that day. Locals are familiar with a little white dog that can be spotted roaming the streets alone. It wouldn't have been such an extraordinary thing if the dog wasn't so completely transparent. Nearing the end of Main Street, you turn down a narrow road that leads you past houses perched atop a tall hill. Music floats towards you from somewhere you can't quite see. It isn't until you reach the whitewashed building at the end of the way that you realize you found a pub. O'Malley's is a curious place. A restaurant on the top floor and a pub far underneath. Built underground so deep that you have to wind your way through dark, narrow tunnels to reach it. There's a story of a man who died deep in those tunnels, all the way at the very bottom of the underground pub, crushed tragically by a falling cask of ale. Some say his eyes have been seen staring through the cracks between the planks of the wooden floor, watching out from his eternal prison. Across the street from O'Malley's sits a bed and breakfast with a dark past. The hatchery was built prior to the Civil War, and the rustic red brick and white trim design of the home is markedly historic. One of the home's original owners was said to have been a slave hunter, and his spiteful spirit is believed to remain in the house. His figure has been seen darkening the front doorstep and waiting at the top of the stairs. He still thinks of the house as his.
So Emily just walked us through the town that time forgot, Weston, Missouri.
I did. I walked us.
You walked us through.
We went on a walk.
Yes, down.
And you didn't have to experience the terrible planters of doom.
Yes, Emily really struggled with the planters.
Yeah. They're no fun if you're drunk. They're just these giant obstacles that are just looming ahead of you
sidewalk.
In the night. It's just like, how many people can we kill when they come visit our town?
They are very large planters. Just
a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. Weston is a nightmare of planters.
That's why we love it so much.
We actually have been there like so many times in the last few months.
It was like becoming a running joke. Just like, where are you going this weekend? I don't know, Weston. What's there? What is happening in Weston?
What's not there? Remember that time we went and we had like no plan. It happened to be, I think, the whiskey festival, but we like didn't have tickets for that. So then we just wandered, like, we parked by like the train tracks, and then we just like crossed this little bridge and ended up in.
It was so weird.
It was so weird, like Jack's Bar.
Yeah, it was like an
like
antique shop / event space / just weird ass collection of things. Like there was a tiny open faced chapel.
Yeah.
And then a little bar. That was really cool.
It was really cool, and it was like, it was Jeff. It was like ring Jeff.
Yeah, we had to call him. Pretty sure he was like in the bathroom because it took him a while.
Yeah, they were like, he's like, I'll be right there. And then it was like 20 minutes later.
Yeah, we were just like sitting at the bar, just swinging our feet, just like, do we leave? What do we do?
But then we like started a thing because then other people were like, wait, where'd you get those drinks?
Yeah, and Jeff was like, these bitches.
But it was like, so anyways, that's just like, Weston is just so awesome. Like, you just don't know what you're gonna find. And so we did the Ghost Tales of Weston tour in October, which is kind of where we got a lot of our inspiration for the walk through town and some of the local ghost stories.
Yes.
And we've stayed the night at the St. George Hotel. We did an overnight.
We did.
That was so very
things happened.
Things happened. Not necessarily haunted things.
I don't know.
I think
it felt like a very cursed experience to me.
I don't know why we chose to leave the TV on, but at one point I think we had fallen asleep watching Miss Congeniality. Yeah. There's 3 of us, all sleeping in a king bed because sure.
And an important thing to note with that was 2 of them, Kayla and our friend Laura, they were at the bed in normal places on the bed, and then I am at the foot of the bed, half hanging off, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I'm just like, thank you for allowing me to sleep on this bed with you.
Like the dog at the foot of the bed.
Why did I choose that for myself?
Well, I don't know. We had a lot of beverages at O'Malley's.
I was like a sad drunk. I had too much beer, and I'm just like,
tummy hurts.
Oh God. My stomach was making bread in the morning.
But for some reason we left the TV on, and I don't know, at some point in the night it was on this show called Cheaters. And apparently at various stages, because we all were like talking over breakfast in the morning, we all like woke up at different points in the night and were like glued to watching the episode.
It was something like, I hadn't had an experience like that for a while. Like, I am convinced it was somehow supernatural because I don't know why I was so interested, completely probably drunk still, in this woman yelling at her husband on his yacht over his girlfriend. It was an experience.
That sounds better than the episode I woke up to. It was something about, I don't know, it was like in they were in an apartment yelling. The yacht sounds more interesting.
It was classy.
It was classy, not.
Classy debauchery. It was weird as hell, and my legs were just hanging off. I was just like, come on, demons, this place is supposed to be haunted. My legs are hanging out of the bed. I don't even got a cover.
Sadly, we were staying on the 2nd floor, so next time we stay there, we probably should request room 302, but we didn't think our friend Laura, who's not into the spookies, would have appreciated.
We didn't even tell her.
She's probably finding out as she listens now.
They lied to me.
That it was a haunted hotel, but we were the floor below.
If anything happened, we slept through it. Or we were too engrossed by Cheaters. The ghost just literally just like pulled up a chair and was like, what we watching? This is my favorite show.
Exactly. But it was actually a great room. We should have spent more time there. It was huge. It had like a sitting area and like a little dining area.
Yeah, I was surprised.
But we literally, we got there that night, had dinner, drank at O'Malley's, went to bed at 1 a.m, and then went and had breakfast at 8 a.m. and checked out. So yeah,
it was kind of a blur.
It was a little bit of a blur, but yeah. So we want to go back and maybe actually explore some hauntedness.
Yes.
But
get an actual spooky experience, I hope.
Yes, but this is just our, initial step into the hauntedness of Weston.
Yeah. We definitely, I think, picked some places that we've talked about that we want to go back to and see a little bit more fully and hopefully actually have something happen.
Yeah. And as Emily kind of touched on in her, narrative, I mean, Weston is really a unique town, and it's just because it has so many old homes. and old buildings. It was it is the town that time forgot. It basically became a ghost town until it was revitalized in like the 1980s and 90s, and even today still being revitalized. So basically it was kind of untouched, which is cool. So it has a lot of history that's still there, versus a lot of towns, buildings get torn down and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
Which is why I think like that place, you wouldn't expect it because it kind of feels like it's in the middle of nowhere, but if you go there on a weekend, it is so busy.
Oh yeah.
Like, and you compare it to other towns that in a lot of ways should be similar. It's just like Weston
just has this charm.
Yeah.
And I think it is because so much of the historic buildings were saved. So it's just like, it's a bigger small town than I think a lot of small towns are.
Yeah, and it like knows what its strengths are, and it knows the strength is like the history and like all these cool little buildings and the quirkiness and all of that, and it's very interesting. Like you wouldn't normally think like to tell somebody if they're visiting from out of town to go to this weird little town out. You gotta drive through some fields a ways, and then here you are. You wouldn't think to tell people to go there, but that I think is like my top place to be like, you should totally go to Weston for a weekend if you visit Kansas City.
Yeah, it's become a really popular, I think, little weekend or day getaway from Kansas City, because it does feel like you're a lot farther away from the city than you are, because it's like to get to it, like Emily said, you gotta like kind of drive through country roads, and then you're like, whoa.
Like, where am
I think some Lifetime and Hallmark movies have actually been filmed in Weston.
Have they really?
Because it's just so cute.
Oh, because I always thought, like, it looks like it should be in a Hallmark
it actually has
movie.
been.
Oh, fun fact.
Fun fact. Stay tuned, there's gonna be more.
Oh, yeah. It's a catchphrase. Fun fact. Oh, unrelated, if you hear geese, I'm sorry. I can't do anything about it. There are legions of geese outside, and I can't make them shut up, and I will do my best to edit them out, but there might be geese, and we're just gonna
it's part of the ambiance.
It is. They're spooky. Geese are evil, so you should definitely be afraid when you hear their ominous honking.
You'll definitely know that we are not lying about recording in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So Emily's gonna say I don't know how to talk about things briefly, so but you know what, my notes are only 9 pages versus 17.
And she was like,
for last episode,
there's pictures, and then she's scrolling through one picture to justify her 9 pages of notes, which are really good notes. It's just I like that the picture was like such a big deal.
Well, so really it's only 8.5 pages of notes because the picture takes up half a page.
And some of her paragraphs, like she's got friggin' like block paragraphs here, just like, damn, you should have been a historian, or like, I don't even know. Like,
I definitely never had trouble writing 20-page papers in college because...
And everybody else is like, oh my god, 20 pages, and you're just like, oh.
I'm like, ramble.
Could have gone with 40, but fine. Let's be brief.
Brief. So, I'm going to take you through a brief history of Weston. It's not brief, but I hope it's really entertaining because it is... Missouri just has a lot of very interesting history, and Weston is a prime example of some of that history. So I'm going to take you on a different kind of tale from Emily's.
Take us.
So take it away. So Weston, it sits in the bluffs kind of off of the Missouri River, just 25 miles north of Kansas City, and it's about 20 miles south of Atchison, which is from our last episode. So Weston and Atchison do have a lot of similarities. You know, they both straddle the state line. They are along the Missouri River, or, well, at least Weston used to be along the Missouri River until 1881, when a major flood caused the river to revert back to an old channel 2 miles from town. But that is a story we will get to a little later. I want to first take you to the founding of Weston. The Platte County area was originally part of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. When Lewis and Clark explored this new territory in 1804, they described it as beautiful and diverse in plant and animal life. Traders and trappers were enticed to come to the area because of their writings. Lewis and Clark stopped at Bear Island, which was near the location of Weston City Hall today. Then in 1836, the federal government officially bought 2 million acres of land from the Iowa, Sac, Fox, Sioux, in, I forgot how to say this.
Which one was it?
Algonquin?
Yeah. We had to, we looked up the pronunciation.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure. Words are hard.
Words are hard. And I wanted to make sure I said it right. So
yes.
The Algonquin Indians. And this purchase was called the Platte Purchase. And Weston sits in Platte County, so that's where the county name comes from. Anyways, after the Platte Purchase, the Indians were moved to a reservation in northeast Kansas. So kind of similar to Atchison, there were Native Americans living in this area. I don't really think that plays at all into the haunted history, but this area was inhabited by Native Americans before the white man came in. Weston was first settled by 2 soldiers from nearby Fort Leavenworth in Kansas in 1837. Story has it that they rode up the Missouri River and found that the river made a natural bay at what would later become Weston's Main Street. This bay was perfect for steamboats and ferries to harbor, so the 2 men set out to purchase the land, and thus the story of Weston began. One of these men was Joseph Moore, who built the very first cabin in Weston. The other soldier was Sergeant Tom Weston, who laid out the town plan. And there are 2 theories to where Weston got its name. It either was from Sergeant Weston, which makes the most sense to me because that's his last name. Right. But the other theory is that because the town was the oldest settlement in Platte Purchase and also the farthest settlement in the West at the time, it could be from West Town, Weston. I personally just think it's probably named after one of the founders.
That kind of made there's a guy named Weston. No, they couldn't have possibly named the town after him.
No, that makes no sense.
This is ridiculous. They named it after the other guy, Easton.
Yes. But after these 2 founders... Get out of here, Emily, with your commentary.
I'm sorry, I'll roll away.
No, I'm just kidding. And as the town grew, settlers arrived from southern states bringing tobacco and hemp crops with them. But sadly, this also meant bringing slavery with them to work the crop fields. Initially, tobacco was the main industry, which is still farmed in the Weston area today. But farmers learned that hemp yielded a higher profit, and this became the main cash crop. At one time, Weston was the world's leading producer of industrial hemp. However, due to the very difficult work of farming hemp, slavery was depended upon to keep costs low for the farmers. The area was also settled by immigrants from Germany, Austria, Scotland, Ireland, and Switzerland. And the Germans were very anti-slavery, so this will play into the politics and businesses of the area as the Civil War nears. One of Weston's forefathers and first entrepreneurs was Ben Holliday, whose first business in Weston was a small tavern established in 1838, which was just a year after the town's founding in 1837. Little fact, in 1841, Holliday became the first postmaster of the town. He also had a stage line called Holliday's Overland and Express Company that had 7 mail routes serving the Nebraska and Wyoming territories. But his biggest business in Weston was outfitting the Mormon wagon trains headed to Salt Lake City. And there's some really fascinating and grim Mormon history in the Kansas City area that Emily and I want to discuss in a future episode. It takes place in Independence, Missouri, which is a part of the Kansas City metro area. And just of interesting note, Mr. Holliday served as a courier during that 1838 Mormon War for the state militia. By 1852, though, Holliday moved to California to further expand his empire. But he did, in 1856, come back to Weston to establish the McCormick Distilling Company. And that distillery is still in existence today, now called Holliday Distillery. And it is the oldest whiskey distillery west of the Mississippi River and the oldest continuously operated distillery in the United States.
Good job.
That was a lot of words.
As soon as I finished it, she looked at me like, be proud. You should compliment me.
It's a lot of S's.
Yeah.
I had to speech therapy as a kid, so that was very impressive for me.
Did you have a little S problem?
I had the R, W problem.
I should probably go to speech therapy now, honestly. I feel like I've got things that need to be sorted out, but it might just be a personality issue.
I should probably have some refreshers. Man, if you guys heard us when we were like just practicing,
Oh my god.
we could not pronounce. So I'm very proud of ourselves now that we're
It was a problem.
Don't know where our accents were coming from.
Yeah, Ona.
The Ona.
The Ona.
The Ona.
It was bad. It was bad, but bad in a really great way.
A really funny way, we hope.
At least I laughed. Doesn't take much.
But back to this
Continue.
very, very fascinating, intriguing history.
Continue with the history teacher.
During the 1840s, numerous churches were built, several of which are still standing and in service today. I actually went to Mass at Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Weston this morning, so... Well, anyways, the architecture of Weston has influence from the French traders that came up the Missouri River from New Orleans and from the Germans that immigrated to the area. By the 1850s, Weston population was 5,000, and it became the second largest port in Missouri behind only St. Louis. That is pretty impressive.
I'm impressed.
Yes. Which that just shows you how thriving Weston was, with as many as 300 steamboats arriving from April through November, unloading supplies for Fort Leavenworth and for shipments out west. Weston was also a major jumping off point for the Santa Fe Trail, the Oregon Trail, and the California Gold Rush.
Don't talk to me about the Oregon Trail. Triggered.
These poor people. Weston might have been the last happy place they were before they went, because Weston was the farthest established city in the West until Texas became a state in 1845.
So that's where they got all their supplies and then immediately died crossing a river.
Yeah.
That's my sole experience with Oregon Trail. I never got past the river.
Yeah. The river will get you.
Every time.
Every time. I always seem to have trouble with my wagon wheels.
I just fail. All that game taught me was to accept defeat in life because you're never gonna make it.
Well, that's probably a very good thing for millennials.
I think that is extremely formative. That's why we're all so optimistic.
Yes. Well, speaking of optimistic, poor Weston suffered a series of catastrophes that just sealed its decline after that height in 1850s. You know, it's just a sad tale from there. The first disaster occurred in 1855 when a major fire broke out in downtown and most of the businesses were destroyed. Weston rebuilt its business district, and most of the buildings standing today were built between 1855 and 1860. But then another disaster occurred when a flood of the Missouri River destroyed the port of Weston. And on top of that, when the river's channel moved several hundred yards to the west when the water receded, so that was another hit to the community. But in 1859, the railroad was built, extended to the north, which gave the town new hope. However, by that point, Civil War was on the horizon.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum. And this is where I'm going to kind of dive a bit into the Civil War history of Kansas and Missouri, which I kind of brought up a little bit in our, Sally House episode with Atchison, but I'm going to go a little bit more in detail. So, Weston, being along the Missouri and Kansas border, it already had conflicts prior to the Civil War officially starting. Platte County, where I had mentioned Weston sits, was involved in the Kansas-Missouri border war, which preceded the Civil War. And many historians claim that the border war was actually the start of the Civil War, 7 years prior. This border war, also known as Bleeding Kansas, was a series of violent civil confrontations between the people of Kansas and Missouri that occurred immediately after the signing of the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854. The issue was whether or not Kansas would become a free state or a pro-slavery state, which resulted in years of electoral fraud, raids, assaults, and murders carried out by the pro-slavery bushwhackers, or border ruffians in Missouri, and the anti-slavery jayhawkers in Kansas. These murders, for instance, led to Jesse James and his brother taking up arms, which we want to talk about.
I don't think we have mixed feelings about Jesse James. I think we just have feelings.
Yes. I think he's so fascinating that at the time he was like he was kind of a romantic hero.
Yeah, he was definitely heavily romanticized. And
even, like, at the time.
Yeah, he was... They definitely saw him as, like, a Robin Hood figure when he...
Really wasn't?
No, not at all.
Anyways, that's a little off topic, but really, these border war, this kind of lead up to the Civil War is what got him and his brother to join the Confederacy, because there was just a lot of bad stuff happening. That's just kind of a little sampling of what I hope to talk about someday.
It's a sample of the horribleness that she'll go into in further detail later.
Yeah, get excited.
Get excited for the murder. It's gonna be so much fun.
Murder.
I really hope my neighbors didn't hear that. They already are scared of me.
Well, your neighbor upstairs has like a pony or something.
Yeah. Back to the history.
Back to the history.
I'm sorry, I'm such a spaz.
It's okay, I am too. I brought up the pony, I think, so.
I did, and I was like, yeah,
we'll see if we keep the pony.
Talk about the pony.
Talk about the pony. Well, hey, there's some Pony Express ties to Weston, too.
Oh my god, you missed the finger. I can't even, like, describe what just happened. It was just like,
hey, my brain is working.
You and your, like, segue. You're able to turn everything into a segue. It's very impressive.
Or it's annoying.
No, I love it. You're doing great.
Well, I don't know how to turn the pony back into the border war, but here we go. So, given Weston's proximity to the border war, also known as Bleeding Kansas, the town had sympathizers on both sides of the conflict. But since hemp was so dependent on slave labor, and that was just a big industry for the town of Weston, most of the population was pro-slavery, along with most of the state of Missouri, sadly. But in this town, you just had fervent abolitionists living next to fervent pro-slavers, and Weston actually experienced like hand-to-hand fighting in the streets, well before the Civil War was officially declared in 1861. And by the time the war started, though Missouri was filled with pro-slavery sympathizers, the state joined the Union in 1861, and many of Weston's young men went to war. So, they had to fight, even though they didn't maybe believe in freeing the slaves. They were, had to fight for the Union, which is good, but interesting.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm sorry, I don't feel bad.
I know, exactly. I don't feel bad, but it just shows, like, that's how brother against brother kind of happened, because Weston did have an official battle of the Civil War in November of 1861. It was its first and only organized battle at Bee Creek. The fight lasted for about an hour and only ended when the Confederates ran out of ammunition. And the entire battle was visible from the land of Red Barn Farm, where today lots of people get married. So just wanted to put that out there, you newlywed.
It's quite lovely.
It is lovely, but it was once a battlefield.
Well, maybe everywhere was once a battlefield, if you think about it.
Probably, actually.
It's a great place to get your pumpkins.
It is. It's a very nice place.
Maybe the land is so fertile because it was a battlefield.
Oh. So think about that when you're picking your pumpkins there.
Corpse pumpkins. That's very Halloween.
It's good fertilizer.
It is.
I don't know why that's not funny. I don't know.
It is funny. Why would we have this podcast if we didn't think that was funny?
Hopefully other people find it funny.
Well, if they're listening to this, they should.
Yes.
If you don't, it's only gonna get worse.
Especially as we talk about, more battles.
I've got some bad stuff I'm gonna talk about.
Oh, and like, did you guys know, Kansas City has like a legit mafia, and there's still rumors that it still does today, so like,
Which we know nothing about. If anybody in the Kansas City Mafia is listening, we only know all the fake stories about hiding bodies in giant penguins.
Yes. For Penguin Park?
Did you say Ping Pong Park?
No, Penguin Park.
I'm saying penguin again.
No.
Say it. Your speech therapist missed something. Say it.
Penguin?
How do you say it? Penguin.
That's what I said.
I'm saying penguin. It's not penguin. It's penguin.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
Penguin. This reminds me of, I think it's Benedict Cumberbatch, can't say.
It is.
Well, I'm in great company, apparently.
God, I'm not editing that out.
Maybe we'll edit out the part about corn and body fertilizer.
No. Penguin Park. Ping Pong Park.
Penguin Park.
God damn.
I gotta go back to the Civil War. Stop making me laugh.
It's your fault for saying it wrong.
This is like, yeah, now the Western history just gets real sad from here. Alright, so here we go. After the Civil War ended in 1865, the town was torn apart by the devastation of war, and it would never recover to its previous prime, where it once boasted to be the second largest port in Missouri after St. Louis. With the war over and slavery abolished, all hemp production ceased as it was too labor-intensive to be profitable without slavery, though tobacco was still a strong product for the area. And hope did come in the form of the railroad in 1869 that extended south to Kansas City, but that proved too late for Weston's revitalization. By 1870, the town's population was under 1,000 people. Then, a series of disasters kicked the town while it was down. Poor town.
Take that, town.
In 1881, a major flood drowned the city, and when the waters receded, the river had moved into an old channel nearly 2 miles away. This, of course, ended any riverboats landing in Weston. 9 years later, in December of 1890, Weston had another devastating fire engulf its downtown. So for the next 60 years, Weston basically became a ghost town. But that sad fate might be what saved the town in the end, or at least saved it to become the charming getaway it is today. Weston avoided the urban renewal of the 1960s and 70s that swept through so many cities in America. Weston had once been on a growth path between Kansas City and St. Joseph, but when the Missouri River changed channels, Weston was saved in a different way, and many of the original buildings were left untouched. So when the community began to look at its many historic buildings and more than 100 antebellum homes, they began to restore them, and in 1972, 22 blocks of Weston were designated as a historic district. Then, beginning in the 1980s, businesses started to come into the downtown district, and the town that time forgot began to thrive again. Today, Weston is a popular day trip or weekend trip for many Midwesterners, and it hosts festivals and events throughout the year. It's a bit like stepping back in time as you walk the streets, and that's probably why it's like our favorite place to just wander on a Saturday.
They've got like a little bit of everything there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all in walking distance. It's just a slightly treacherous walk, depending
Damn
on
planners.
how. And I noticed when I was doing my narrative, like I was picturing the town, we've been there a lot, and I just realized that I made it so much steeper in my narrative than it actually was. Like I'm picturing it like it's a freaking mountain, and you're just going down, and it's just because I'm so out of shape that when I'm walking it, it's like, oh God, this is hiking down a Mount Doom.
It's a gentle.
It is quite gentle, but when I'm doing it, I'm just like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, me too. Don't wear your heels.
Though I dramatized it in my narrative, which I guess is good. It was supposed to be dramatic. It was funny.
Yeah. So that is some history on Weston.
That is some history. You did a good job.
Thanks. There's,
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you your PowerPoint and your pointer at some point so you can truly go into the history as much as you want.
Well, and then as I'm like throwing out dates, there can be this like visualization of the
Didn't
timeline.
you make a timeline?
I did for the Sally House.
Okay, because I was like, I had like a clear image of a timeline.
I sure did.
Right.
I don't know. I did write some little blurbs about each place you talked about in your narrative. Do you want to talk about their little history?
Yeah, I can give the professor a break.
Yes. My speech therapist needs me to take a break.
Hey, you need to talk about penguins. Penguins.
That's what I say.
You didn't say that. All right. So history about these places. For more history on the history.
We haven't historied you enough.
This is the history addition to the history section of the podcast.
This is like, if you like do a little indent, like breakdown, like,
Yes. Yeah, if there's a picture, imagine us zooming in on places now. So we're zooming in on the St. George Hotel again. It's located on 500 Main Street in Weston, in case you forgot what we were talking about. It was built in 1845 as a working man's hotel, which is why we stayed there, because we're working men.
We sure are. I'm working my bones.
I'm working yep. I got my strong working arms. It welcomes steamboat captains, tradesmen, and travelers. It was one of 3 hotels in Weston during its prime, but the only historic hotel left today. It had 47 rooms on the top 2 floors. The first floor was a saloon, a tobacco shop, restaurant, 2 retail spaces, and sample rooms where traveling salesmen could exhibit their goods, which I thought was really cool.
That is really fascinating. Like, do you think that was a common thing?
I don't know.
Or is it just because Weston was such a, because it was a port city, it was,
Probably.
it had just so many travelers that they had...
Yeah, because, now, I mean, it kind of is like that still now, actually. It has, the general store. It's got that,
That bar with those amazing drinks.
That bar is
if you guys go to Weston, you gotta go to the bar in the St. George Hotel.
So messed up there.
Yeah.
I spilled half of my, $10 cocktail.
It was $14.
Oh, no, I thought I was rounding up to begin with. My hand was I was so excited, my hand was just shaking. It kept going, whoop, whoop. There was a pool around me on the table.
But they're so good.
God, it was delicious.
Those cocktails.
That's where I discovered my love of gin. It's probably a bad discovery in retrospect, but it was good.
Yeah.
All right.
Gin will sneak up on you.
Oh, God. Yes, it will. All right, so.
Do you know how hard it is for me to not say my gin fun fact?
Say it. Just say it. You haven't said it yet. This gin fun fact, I swear, was the foundation of our friendship. I heard it 30 times.
I know. I finally had to stop myself because I'm always like, you've already told me that 30 times.
I'm sorry. I want you to... I'm happy you're happy that you know this. But no, tell us.
Oh, no, I forgot it. I've not said it for
You have not forgot it. God.
It was founded in England, and it's made from juniper.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
You good?
I think that was mostly just all I said, and you're like, yeah, I know, Kayla.
I feel like you told me every time we hung out for a solid month.
I did. I'm forgetful in my old age.
That's forgivable. The fire in December of 1890 that swept through downtown Weston left the building in ruins with only 2 street-side brick walls left standing. Da-da-da. Those 2 walls are part of the current building. Today, the St. George Hotel, it features 24 rooms and 2 deluxe suites. And again, the amazing bar that you should totally go to, but not late at night because they will tell you to leave.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just habitual for us. People tell us to leave places a lot.
They do.
I don't know what it is.
It's about our faces.
We're like, oh God, not them. Get out.
Instead, we just went upstairs and watched Cheaters.
Not on purpose. Oh.
No, you went too far.
I
What'd
went
you
too
do?
far. I clicked really hard. Where am I?
You're at the beginning.
I went to the beginning. We're restarting this episode. Buckle up.
You just really want to re-listen to me.
I'm aggressively clicking on this keyboard. And I can't.
Oh my God, I gotta help her.
Help me! Wow. So after the Civil War and the 1881 flood, the hotel lost most of its business, but the building persevered by operating as apartments, a post office, and a bank. The hotel is believed to have hauntings dating back to the Civil War, and the most active rooms are 302 and 303, where a young boy is said to roam and steal things from guests. Guests have reported extremely cold areas and hearing what sounds like a little boy running, laughing, and knocking things around in the middle of the night, which to me I would just assume is cats, which apparently there's a ghost cat there too, so it could actually be the cat. Because my cats do that, and I'm just like...
The ghost cat.
Yeah. So the St. George Hotel is one of the most haunted hotels in Missouri. I don't think we were there kind of long enough to determine if that was true, and we definitely need to go back and stay in one of the actual, really haunted rooms to
and do a proper investigation.
Yes, because we were dead.
We kind of just stayed there because we wanted to have a night out. Yeah. And it's the only hotel. I mean, there's bed and breakfast, but it's the only hotel in the downtown area. So.
Yeah, if there was a ghost, it was just watching it just what these absolute disasters. We're haunting somebody else. This won't even be satisfying to scare these people.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it a little bit in the narrative, when I mentioned that kind of like ghostly figure in the window. That actually happened. In 2018, a guest took a picture of the hotel, and they hadn't seen anything at the time. It's just the front of the building, and when they were looking with just their eyes, they didn't see it, but when they took the picture and looked back, they saw a ghostly figure standing in the top floor window of what was room 302, and it's very clearly, well, clear is a stretch. We're looking at it right now.
But it's definitely a mist that looks kind of like a person.
Yeah, like I could kind of see like maybe a white dress and potentially hair, but it also kind of looks like the Hamburglar.
It could be Matrixing. Oh no, we're sounding too much like Shane. But we will link this news story in our show notes, and so you can take a look at the photo for yourself.
Yes.
And you can determine, is it the ghostly woman, or is it just a foggy window?
Yeah, they just need some Windex, I think.
This is interesting, it's the only open window.
That's true. She was just like, here, let's open this and then let's put a napkin. So another place that I kind of mentioned in the narrative is the Main Street Galleria and upstairs tea room. It's a variety store, confectionery, an old-fashioned soda fountain, and a tea room, and a full restaurant.
Yeah, upstairs, yeah.
It's yummy.
Mm-hmm.
The building sits on the corner of Main Street directly across from the St. George Hotel. It's housed a pharmacy, a dentist office, apartments, a library, and an antique shop. The soda fountain on the main floor has been in operation almost constantly since the doors were first opened over 100 years ago in 1893. We had a delicious breakfast there.
We sure did.
I feel like it was either really, really good,
or we were so hungover, it was really good.
I think it was a mix, heavy combination of both. And I remember it being a very quiet breakfast, just a lot of staring at each other over a table.
And being like, ooh, I need more biscuits and gravy.
It was we were messes. But breakfast is not the only thing you can see in the building. The ghost of Frank Leon Bino?
We'll just call him Frank.
Oh, Frank. He's got a long name. And his wife Creola are said to haunt the premises. They ran the drugstore on the site for decades. The business was inherited from Bino Hillix's father. So Creola died in 1973, and she had been a comforting presence for many in the community. So the current owners welcome Creola's presence because she is still watching out for the community. Her voice has been heard upstairs. Other activities include the front door mysteriously locking, items falling off the shelf on the first floor, and hair touching while in the bathroom.
Was that like a thing?
See, I remember their description of the woman presence in the upstairs being more malicious, because I remember they were
because that's what I mean about but maybe it's not this Creola.
Maybe not, because I remember being kind of creeped out going to the bathroom, because it literally made it sound like she lurked in the corner of the bathroom and just would sometimes just mess with whoever was in there.
Right.
So I had the image of the grudge lady just standing there with her hair in front of her face. And
I peed so fast.
And I was like, I don't know, I'm sorry. I think I was talking to her, I'm just going to the bathroom, I'm so sorry, this is your space, don't mind me, I'm just gonna leave. Yeah. Mess with the next person, please. So the tea room also has a desk in the upstairs kind of restaurant area that was owned by a Civil War officer, Captain James McCarty. Captain McCarty came with a desk and is known to lock doors and knock pictures off the wall. And I know Verna kind of described him as her guardian angel, almost like she, the owner of the tea room, felt like they had a very personal connection.
Yeah.
Like he was there to protect her, which I thought was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting right next to that desk.
We sure were. I could have leaned back and
I know she said it came with a ghost, and I'm just looking over and I was like, oh.
This desk, right here.
That right there, that's the haunted desk. Hello, Captain McCarty. And another thing that I mentioned is Verna strongly believes that the tea room is a portal. Mm-hmm. When we went to the Ghost Tales tour she does, she pointed to two parts of the room and specifically said, there's a portal right there, I can see it right now. The wall's kind of distorting, and it's I don't remember how she described it exactly. It was very vivid to the point where I was staring at it and like I got chills.
I know. I was like, wait, I think I'm seeing it, or
I know, I'm either seeing it or the wall is stained, but I don't know which. But it was very creepy, and I definitely felt she's either just a remarkable storyteller, which she is for sure, but I definitely felt
like
odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's in touch with.
Oh, for sure.
What's happening beyond the veil.
Beyond the veil. So the next haunted place that's pretty well known in the town is called the Hatchery House. In 1845, and side note, we kind of took this directly from their website, so. Okay, so in 1845, Benjamin Wood, who would later become mayor of Weston, built a beautiful two-story federal-styled home. Through the years, the house has changed owners several times. Benjamin Wood sold the house to Ben Holliday.
That guy again?
Throwback
to my boring history earlier.
It was not boring. But he sold it in 1856. A few years later, in 1872, Ben sold the house to his brother, David Holliday. And David lived in the house and ran the distillery that he and his brother founded, while his brother Ben ventured west and gained fame from the Overland Stagecoach Company. David left the property to his sister, Kate Butler, after he passed in 1899. However, it was bought out by her niece and her niece's husband, Clara and Thomas Barton. The house stayed within the Barton family until 1920, when it was sold to Emma Doppler. When she died in 1936, Herbert Doppler inherited the house. Around 1940, Herbert Doppler converted the house into apartments. And I hate this fact. Just so you know.
So it is not a fun fact for Emily.
No, it's yucky.
It's a yucky fact. Here's your
yucky fact. Quite often, due to the inexpensive rent, newlyweds occupied the apartments. As time passed, many of these young couples conceived and had their children while living there. Consequently, the townspeople coined the phrase the hatchery for the hatching of the babies.
So that is why it is called the Hatchery House, because lots of babies were made.
And we were talking earlier about how it just must have been just so noisy
From
at all stages of the baby hatching.
Yes.
And I absolutely despise the word hatching when used for babies because the visual is just really gross for me. And maybe that's just me, but I don't know.
It's very farm sounding.
I'm like, oh, those little baby chicken peoples. I don't know. I don't like it. So Glenn and Jolene Payne, I can't say that name normally, Jolene, I don't know why. They purchased the hatchery in 1985, which saved it from being torn down. Renovation took several years of hard work and determination. Their dream was complete, to restore the structure to its original form. They decided to open the home to the public in the form of a bed and breakfast to allow others to share in its uniquely preserved house. Now, formerly a hotel, the Hatchery House holds its historic namesake and continues to run as a bed and breakfast, showcasing its antiques collected throughout the years. And, as I mentioned earlier, there is also a ghost. I don't remember any specific stories about him other than him just kind of standing places looking very ominous and spooky.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how verified him having been a slave hunter was. That's the story.
Right, because I kind of feel like at the time of when a slave hunter might have lived there, Ben Holliday owned it, but he also was living in California at the time, so I don't know, like, was he just the owner, but someone else was living there? I'm kind of confused.
I do get the sense that a lot of Weston stories might possibly be tall tales or something that's just kind of passed down
Urban
as like
legend.
local, like local lore, and it kind of ties into like some of the history in O'Malley's.
I don't think that the scrolling down doesn't work.
It really doesn't. So with the Malleys, the Weston Brewing Company was first established in 1842 by German immigrant John Georgian, and it was one of the first lager beer breweries in the United States. Since this lager beer needed to be stored below 60 degrees, construction dug to a depth of 55 feet below ground with 5 arched limestone cellars, which if you remember from our last episode, limestone is super important, which is kind of interesting because I feel like, I don't know if it's just because you're so deep underground, but I feel like O'Malley's has kind of a very weird vibe to it.
Yeah, you have to descend like so far down, like you don't have cell service.
Yeah, it's like, I love it. It's creepy though.
It is. But it also, it's like got that, Weston has that limestone, water, and train tracks.
Yeah, get everything it needs. So the brewery closed for a time in 1919 when Prohibition was signed into law. Oh, we've got a fun fact.
Oh, shall I read?
You should do it. You should do it. It's for you.
Well, so my fun fact for O'Malley's, well, actually kind of for the town of Weston, the soldiers of Fort Leavenworth, which is just a few miles away, it's not very far from Weston, they helped establish and grow Weston because, well, it was on Missouri side, so it had booze, and at the time Kansas had strict liquor laws, and honestly, Kansas is still kind of strict with liquor laws today, which is fascinating. Like, Emily, did you know that happy hours only became legal in Kansas as of 2011?
I did not. That is so stupid.
And you still can't buy liquor in grocery stores. You can only buy 2% beer and some wine.
So I can never move to Kansas.
You have to go specifically to a liquor store. You just can't get it from your, grocery store. And actually until 2005, you could not buy liquor on Sundays.
That's why Kansas sucks.
Yeah, Missouri's better.
Yeah.
Except for
the history of it.
Except for the history of it. At least, historically, Missouri was a union state, even if the people
even
weren't.
if they didn't actually want to do it.
Yeah.
At least they were forced to.
Yeah.
So there's a rumor that O'Malley's was used, and this kind of goes back to the tall tale thing. The rumor was that O'Malley's was used in the Underground Railroad. This probably stems from the founder being German, and like we said earlier, Germans are very anti-slavery. There's also a tunnel that led to a creek out back.
And then connect that to the Missouri River.
Yeah.
So in theory, that would have made a great escape route for slaves because the Kansas border was just like a stone's throw away, so they could have hidden O'Malley's, gone through the tunnel into the creek, and then over into the free state of Kansas. So just logistically, that would have been really tough.
But it is a cool story though.
It is.
It'd be cool
And
if it was true.
you can't say it's not true.
Yeah, I mean it would. It's an interesting location and it could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But so today, visitors can enjoy Irish beer in the German-opened brewery.
Maybe that's why there's a ghost there. Maybe that's the German founder who's like, what the hell? Why is there Irish beer?
Every time an Irish beer is served, the ghost just "Nine" and slaps it out of their hands.
Yes.
Or at least he tries to. It doesn't work out. But if I would be happy if he slapped a beer out of my hand.
Yeah.
As long as he paid for a new one.
So today's episode has been brought to you not by a, German lager or Irish beer, but by a local Weston wine.
The Missouri Moscato.
Missouri Moscato.
It's our favorite from the Weston Wine Company. It's, Prim and Proper?
Yes, it's so good.
I think we literally get a bottle every time we go there at this point. It's so yummy.
So I picked up a bottle today.
Yes, it was a very nice surprise.
Yes.
I'm not prim and proper when I drink it.
And it's not officially brought to you by, maybe someday, but...
If you're listening, please officially bring us by you. How would you say that?
Brought to you by?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
It is now.
Well...
I struggled. I'm not even tipsy, it's just the very strong onion I had with dinner. It knocked my senses straight out. I feel like I'm just breathing onion on you, and it's just...
Good thing we're towards the end. Mm-hmm. We do have to wrap up, though, So when we were doing the Ghost Tales of Weston, Verna's tour, we were pretty drunk, so we were like, we gotta take notes, because we're not gonna remember anything. Yeah. And my shorthand is just...
I think, both of us have very, very fantastic shorthand.
That's just great. My notes are just like a stream of consciousness. I don't know if I should read them all.
Oh, read them all.
You want me to read the whole thing? I mean, it's not that long, really.
Oh, yeah, read the whole thing.
But it just... you might learn some more facts that I didn't touch upon.
We might learn something about ourselves along the way.
So here we go. Not sure if town is named after Weston or West Town. Weston was built on slave labor. Hemp was main export. The founders moved away because they didn't like politics. Town was based in ferries. Apparently, there was some town named Rialto at the end of Military Road in State Park. There was a halfway house in a town there. Guy hid gold in the hills. So maybe we should look into that.
You gotta find that gold.
Sounds interesting. Fort Leavenworth. See, I told you. Fort Leavenworth helped establish Weston because Weston had booze. Flood in 1881, moved the river back to Old Channel 2 miles away. Town died.
The end.
The end. Buffalo Bill Cody lived in Weston. Took horses up to St. Joe for Pony Express. Oh, that one makes no sense. Before River moved, there was an island called Bear Island, which I did touch upon.
You did touch the Bear Island.
That Lewis and Clark put their feet there.
They put their feet there.
Now, this is the most funny part of my notes, the very end, which is the end of the ghost tour. They kind of took us towards the, I don't know, back part of town, where I guess it kind of backs up to Weston Bend State Park.
Yeah.
So kind of for a reference. And there's a ghost story that goes along with that, but this is all I wrote. Ghost man in overalls come out a creek looking for his son Bobby. At edge of Weston Bend State Park, the back gate. That's where they seen man looking for Bobby. A lot of houses back there were brothels.
That's where they seen him.
That's where ghost man come out of creek looking for his son Bobby. That's where they seen man.
Oh God. Alright. So I did the same thing. I got my stream of consciousness notes. Consciousness?
Yeah.
On my phone, and I'm going to this will be a live reading of the brilliance of me taking notes when I'm drunk. Muriel and Tilly, Lady of the Night and Cat, 208 and 304 are haunted. Captain's room. Einstein's brain lived here? Hatchery house old owner at the top of the landing will greet people. Was slave hunter. Lewis and Clark suite is super scary. Lower pub did not exist. Lindsay. Bob Reed saw eyes staring through the floorboards while there was only a middle pub. Bob saw eyes, and that is why they lifted the floorboards. O'Malley was part of the Underground Railroad, and the bottom of the hidden part of that, there was a creek, out back, that they used to get to Kansas because it was a free state. This is in quotes. What was the eyeballs?
Why is that in quotes?
I don't know. I think somebody said that. I was like, that's funny.
Oh, yeah, because, well, of course, there was other people on this tour with us.
What was the eyeballs? There was a guy that got squished by a barrel of beer in the basement of O'Malley's. Lady who walks the creek, named Mary. All ghosts are named Mary. Lots of hair pullers in Weston. Coal House Lodge, Bear Island. Boats used to dock by Wall because that is where the river was. 1987, park rangers called because fishermen were missing Bobby. Bobby was his son? Question mark. Bobby's dad was a ghost? Question mark. Man comes up out of river looking for Bobby. Houses back by Coal House were all brothels. Tea House White Powder Fire, burned in 1890, did not rebuild in 1982. Always been a pharmacy. Leon Hillocks and Creole lived here and haunt here. Lifetime movie, December 23rd. Benner. My last note is Benner.
What's Benner? I don't know. Oh wait, Benner is one of the bed and breakfasts, I think.
Oh, I guess I think we're like, we need to go there. Let's write it down so we remember.
Your notes are definitely more detailed than mine, although I like how I had the note that the ghost man looking for a son was in overalls. You did not have that descriptor? No,
you did not. I was just like, his father was a ghost?
But yours are definitely, you're a better note taker than me. But also our notes are very different.
They are. I like focused on, my favorite is all ghosts are named Mary.
They do seem to be.
Yeah. They're all Mary and they're all wearing white dresses.
Yes, always yes.
Yeah, the hair pullers in Weston though. That's something
I think that was
a
the thing. Yeah, because like there was I think that's the hair pulling in the bathroom, or the upstairs tea room.
They got a thing going on in Weston.
Well, there's all the brothels.
If you're into hair pulling, you know where to go.
And on that note, I'm just kidding.
That's where we'll end. Do we have anything else we need to say?
I mean, there's definitely, there's a lot about Weston. Because like I had said in my history, like, 22 blocks are like reserved as a historic district. So there is a ton more buildings that we can, explore, in cemeteries. So Weston, we will be returning.
Oh, for sure. We definitely want to go back and do some more like live things at these destinations and try to go specifically to, like, if you go back to St. George, go to those haunted rooms and go to the hatchery and hopefully not hatch anything.
But apparently we need to stay in the Lewis and Clark room.
Apparently it's creepy.
Yeah. So
didn't remember that being a thing.
So stay tuned. Somewhere down the road we will be back to Weston, and we've hoped you enjoyed our tour through Weston, and definitely if you find yourself in the Kansas City area, it is absolutely worth a visit.
Yes. And please, if you liked us, make sure to leave a review and let other people know about us. So
yes, even if you don't like us, if you could still leave us like a 5-star review, and then you can just like critique us in the comment.
But be nice, because I'll cry.
I have delicate sensitivities.
So lie is what I'm saying. Just lie to us. If you don't like us, say you did.
Or what you want to hear more of, or
that would be helpful. Yeah. If you think we're horrible and our voices are the worst, I can't fix that, so don't say that.
I am sorry that I think our voices sound fairly similar, but hopefully as you get to know us more, you'll be able to tell. I'm Kayla.
I'm Kayla.
No, don't confuse our listeners. It's only episode 2.
I'm Emily. I got confused. If it gets too bad, we'll just put on a terrible accent and then you'll hate us.
Yes, because we will both have different but equally terrible accents.
It's our specialty. Like penguins.
Oh, we also did want to say about where the little music intro comes from.
Yes, this is completely unrelated from this episode, but...
Yeah, I did not have a clever
No, I
segue.
wanted to, we probably wanted to do that in the beginning, but this is a very fun fact. Because we went to the Sally house, both of us were recording videos in the master bedroom, I think.
Yes.
And there is this music box there, and we just recorded us playing it, and we just cut that song out and slowed it down a little bit, and that's what we're using for our intro.
So the piece of the Sally house will always be with us until we change our intro.
Yes, but I think that makes it a little bit creepier, because it's literally a music box from a demon house, so...
Yep.
That's what you're listening to. It might be haunted.
It might be.
I hope it is.
And
that's it.
On that note, we bid you farewell.
We've already established we're really bad at saying goodbye.
I know. Maybe we need to, research, how other podcasts say goodbye.
I think they just stop recording.
So we should just stop recording.
Probably. That's what the stop button's for. We'll catch you next time in episode 3.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.